In that role, you're pretty much running the show. And then I'm also a licensed realtor, so I have experiences in the real estate department as well. So, in my opinion, I'm perfectly suited for the role of commissioner.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My name's Phil Haskell. I'm a 28-year trustee out in Perry Township. And this is for Kim. You made a comment about the land bank. Do you truly understand what the land bank is all about? And why do you think it's hurting the school so much?
Well, the land bank, when funding is taken away from the schools for anything, it hurts the schools.
How much is being taken away?
Well, it's 5% of the DTAC funds. So so the schools are partially funded by DTAC, which are the delinquent property tax fees that people pay. And so 5% of that is going towards the land banks. Now the state does allow for the commissioners to raise that to 10% if they would like to. I'm not aware of any talk of that right now. But our commissioners tend to have a history of, if I'm able to do it, I'm going to try to do it. So I would expect sometime in the future they probably want to. The land bank, for those of you who are aware of NUSCC, NOACA, regionalism, and for those who don't, maybe I should try to give a very brief explanation. NUSCC is the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium. They are a private organization that have been around for several years. They just spent their $4.25 million federal HUD grant, basically developing and executing research to come up with the results that they had intended to come up with. Okay. In order to get this grant, they had to state what the results of their research was going to be. Based on the results of the research, then they developed recommendations, which are pretty much the same as everywhere else in the country that this is happening. And then they are now going to our MPOs, the Metropolitan Planning Organizations, like ours is NOACA, and NOACA is going to be able to start implementing these things if they adopt them. Now, NOACA never voted on it, but they're putting NUSCC recommendations in all of their strategic planning. So even though the board members didn't even get a chance to vote on it, they're just adopting it by default, apparently. Now, if you look at NUSCC's recommendations, it's about a 60 or 65 page PowerPoint presentation. You can go on their website, look it up, nuscc.org. And if you look at, if I remember, slide number, I want to say 39, okay, it's a map of the demographics of our area today. So it has various shades of yellow are suburbs, and there are some cities that are some darker colors in there, and then the east sliver is rural, which is the way it is today. And you can see on there where Route 2 runs through and where Route 90 runs through. If you go to slide 60, roughly, you'll see another map of where they want things to be in 2040. And if you look at that map, everything under Route 90 is green. Now, in this map, green does not mean rural. It means conservation land, meaning people can't live there anymore. And it sounds like, how in the world are they going to be able to pull that off? But the land bank is part of that, because when the county gets to take a hold of this land in various different ways, it's very complicated. They're working side by side with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Sometimes it will not end up back in private hands. Right now, when you hear about the land bank and you hear about Western Reserve Land Conservancy, they always talk about, all of these blighted neighborhoods and these houses that they tear down and then they want to sell them, and get them back into private ownership. But it's not always going to be like that. And so that's one of the ways that they want to actually implement this. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because I had mentioned to Chuck that I'd like to give an update on NOACA. I went to their annual meeting, the 2014 annual meeting on Friday, and I still do not feel good about what I heard. As of now still, NOACA can claim that they don't have any kind of authority over our housing, because they're, transportation, air, water quality, sewers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the new transportation bill that's being considered in Congress right now is going to actually give them housing authority through HUD. And they were talking about a term called location efficiency. The presentation was housing plus transportation. So this
Central
is
planning.
What's that?
Central planning.
Central planning, right. Well, NOAC is a central planning agency for the region, the 5 counties. NEOSCC would like to create another regional planning organization over the 4 metropolitan planning organizations that cover the 12 Northeast Ohio counties. I need a chalkboard. But yeah, so that's their new thing. I've never heard this term before, but basically they are going to start rolling these this planning out with our housing as well. They want to combine location efficient housing to be near public transportation. So if you ever hear that term, location efficiency, if you Google that, the EPA talks about it, a bunch of other things, so that might be a buzzword that they're going to start talking about. So yeah, so I kind of felt sick over it on Friday, and it hasn't really left me yet, but just want to let you guys know to kind of watch out for that.
All right, I think we're going to terminate the questions here so that we have some time for you to actually talk to the candidates. So what I'd like to do at this point, before I go into my final announcements, is ask our candidates to stand and give them a round of applause. And while I go through my final announcements, if you guys want to kind of spread around in the auditorium so that folks can find you. Okay, I hope that this was informative for everyone. So that was the intent. And if you have any questions that haven't been answered yet, please feel free to talk to any or all of the candidates after we close up the meeting here tonight. Membership is available at the table where Carol is standing, and so anybody that's interested in, if you are not currently a member and you would like to be a member and support the organization, the cost is $25 for an annual membership. Also, this was our month for having elections for our leadership team. We didn't end up with any nominations for additional folks, so you have the same leadership team for the next year, and just so that everybody knows who they are. Carol Lindros, if you would stand. Carol is on the leadership team. Nikki Gorfito, where's Nikki? Nikki's right here. On the leadership team, Julie Kuhn is our treasurer. She wasn't able to be here tonight. And Denise Verdi is also, I don't think, here tonight. And I am the executive director, and you're stuck with me for at least one more year. Okay, our next meeting is on October 21st. It'll be at this location. Janet Porter will be our speaker. She is the author of the 2011 Heartbeat Bill. She's a very dynamic speaker. If you've seen the documentary Agenda, Grinding America Down, she appears on that video. So you don't want to miss that. On November 18th, Dan Hermada from Act for America will be our guest speaker. And Act for America is an organization that's defending America from Sharia law and infiltration of Islam into our government, in particular Muslim Brotherhood. So it's another meeting that you don't want to miss because there'll be a lot of information presented on that. And we will not be having a meeting in December. We typically don't do that. One last thing. Except Nikki's going to have one more thing too. Candidate literature being distributed, that was mentioned here tonight. A lot of you have volunteered to help out with that. We can still use some more help with that. We are targeting to 25,000 homes in Lake County. That seems like a lot of homes.